Today we're going to look at the difference between increasing your home's value and increasing its marketability. I had a client earlier this month ask how to increase the value of the home they were looking to purchase. The goal was to purchase the home while their son started his new job, fresh out of college, and then sell the home in about 4 years when everyone was looking to move. We discussed some things that she had done in her previous home and if those things would translate to value out here. So she asked, would these add value here? I told her no, but they may make the home more marketable. She looked at me shocked and said I had no idea there was a difference. So let's check out these quick tips for anyone who may not know that either. First, what's the difference? Let's define value and marketability. Value is the regard that something is held to deserve, or the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. If you're a client of mine, you've already heard me shout this from the mountaintop. A property is worth what someone is willing to pay. Now there are many factors like market fluctuations, amount of inventory, interest rates, personal needs, etc. that determine value, but an easy summation is what someone is willing to pay. Let's look at marketability. The ability of a commodity to be sold or marketed, or the attractiveness to potential clients or customers. Again, for clients who have hired me to sell your home, you know what we're talking about here. Day one, I gave you a photo checklist that describes exactly what to do before we show up to take pictures of your home. That way it looks its best. That is marketability. Nothing on this list increases the value a single dollar, but it exponentially increases the marketability of the presentation that we put forth of your home. Now that we know the difference, let's look at some examples. Value first. Number one, we're going to increase the usable square footage of the home. A good example of this in our area is an unfinished basement. Let's use a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot home as an example. If you have an unfinished walkout basement, you can easily double your square footage and create usable rooms. Now keep in mind, there are diminishing returns to a certain point. You don't want to create a 7-bed, 5-bath house in a neighborhood with only 3 to 4 bedroom houses. But with the help of a professional who knows the market, you can increase your value with some cost-effective renovations. This principle could also work for attics, garages, add-ons, anything like that. Just remember, consult an expert who can help weigh the costs versus the rewards. Number two, the mechanics of the home. Now when we talk about a mechanic, we're not talking about that kind. We're talking about electrical, plumbing, heating, cooling, the roof. This can be a gray area value-wise, and it mainly depends on how much of an upgrade you're providing. Let's check out a few examples that we can weigh out in this area. The roof. If you are 15 to 20 years into a 20-year shingle roof, it may not be something that needs replaced if no leaks are present, tabs or shingles are missing, and it's been maintained properly. Then you likely wouldn't get the value back from the cost of the roof at the time of sale. HVAC. This is the heating, cooling, ventilation area of your home. HVAC can be a tricky one. The house we bought in January 2019 was built in 1990. It has the original heat pump still chugging along. Even though the refrigerant type is no longer in use, and when it does go out, we will need to replace it. The value proposition for the seller didn't warrant changing the heat pump because it still worked, and it still works today. Inversely, if you have a gas furnace that doesn't have a compressor or coils for air conditioning, it may be worth the money to add that to increase your home's value. Let's look at the electric. You don't see this much anymore, but the old knob and tube wiring in houses from the earlier 1900s is something that would absolutely need to be replaced. Upgrading your home to a 200 amp service with a panel box and breakers will allow for future upgrades like a heat pump, modern appliances, and more. The increase in value could vastly outweigh the cost of rewiring the home. Now marketability. Let's look at some popular ideas that increase marketability but don't actually add value. The first is landscaping. Landscaping adds zero property value. But if you're competing against a neighboring property, it can make all the difference. If you watched our video about getting your home ready to sell, you remember that first impressions make all the difference. Spending a small amount of time and money can greatly increase the marketability with a good first impression. Second, and this goes back to the gray area, finishes. When we say finishes, we're talking about floor coverings, trim, fixtures, lights, handles, etc. When I was looking with the client who inspired this video, we walked into a $600,000 house. All the lights were recessed, low watt, incandescent bulbs. It was dark. It looked dingy. It was a cabin-style home surrounded by trees and finished in darker colors. Those things themselves are fine, but when you add the lights to it, it created a marketability issue that makes it hard for that home to overcome. The difference between selling your home faster and selling it at all may be something as simple as the lights. Make sure that you upgrade your lights to something that are bright and someone could see themselves living in the home with. Again, inversely of that, if you have a home in a neighborhood where no one has solid surface countertops, crown molding, or a fenced yard, making those upgrades may just be throwing money away since none of the comparables have those upgrades. Last but not least, everyone's favorite, paint. I once had a client tell me, putty and paint will make what ain't. And man, was he right. I can't tell you the number of times I've walked into a home with a first-time buyer and the paint has been chipped, peeling, odd colors, dirty, ugly, unfinished, just a myriad of things. It pretty much removes the home from their list before we even get to look at the rest of the house. An excellent example of when to paint is wood paneling. It's always dark. It reminds people of the 70s, and it's usually a point of contention. Just give it a quick sand, primer, paint, and you can brighten up even the darkest rooms. There are more examples that we don't have time to discuss in this video, but as always, my contact info is at the end of the video. Call, text, email me with any questions anytime. Thanks for watching.